For this assignment, you will create a new feature class that you will use to perform field data collection on the Euler campus. For the purposes of this instructional video, I am going to be creating a feature class that I could use to collect data on the information kiosks that are located in downtown Little Rock. For the requirements of your feature class, please reference your instruction document. Step 1 lists out the requirements, specifically that this must be something that is on Euler's campus, and there must be a certain number of these features in the real world so that you guys can get practice on field data collection. After your group has decided what you want to collect data on, you need to perform step 2 in the instruction document, which is your feature class field data design. You will do this in an Excel document, and this will help you organize the information that you want your layer to collect. You need to list the field name, the field alias, what data type your field is going to have, and other information about if you're going to allow null values, if it will be a coded domain field, and what those coded domain values are for your coded domain fields. After you have completed this step and received approval, you can start with the steps of creating your feature class. We are going to do this in ArcPro. So create a new map and save it to your Week 7 GIS folder. And give it a name that you like, or just 7.1 field data collection. You will use the catalog pane to create your new feature class, and you will do this in the database section. So your new feature class will be saved to the database that your ArcPro project automatically created. To do this, open the catalog pane and open databases, then right-click on your project's database and go to New Feature Class. Give your feature class an appropriate name. Mine will be called Information Kiosk. Remember to follow the GIS folder and file naming rule where you do not use spaces or periods. Next, you need to select the geometry for your feature class. You will most likely need to choose point geometry. And we are going to uncheck our z-value. Z-value provides elevation information that you can use in a 3D map. We will not be using these layers in a 3D map, so we do not need it to collect that information. I forgot to mention that the Create Feature Class pane has 6 pages, and we're really only going to use 3 of those 6 pages. Once you've filled out your name, alias, your feature class geometry type, and you've unselected z-values, click Next. This is where we will spend most of our time inputting our field information. The first field that you should add will be a unique identifier. So we are going to give it the GUID option, and we will name it Unique ID. Next, you are going to add a date field, and that will have the data type of date. If you do not want it to collect time along with the date, you can select the date only option. Do not select the time only option because we want to know what date we collected this data on. We don't need to give it an alias, but we can. And we do not want to allow null values. We want every record that we collect to have the date field populated. Next, we will add our third required field, which is our notes field. You do not have to add these fields in this order. Sometimes, it makes more sense to have your notes field at the very bottom or as the very last field, because that one may or may not have information. Our notes field is going to be text, and the alias will just be its same name. We will allow null values, and we will keep the length at 255 characters. Add your last required field, which you can either call technician or data collector. I will call it technician. It is also going to be a text field. And we do not need it to be 255 characters. I think 50 characters will suffice. Next, you are going to add your fields that your group developed on your own. My fields are direction, and that is again going to be a text field. Oh, I forgot our technician field. We do not want to allow null values. Direction, I want that information for each record, so I'm going to select no for allow null values. I'm going to call this field direction screen facing, and I am going to change it to 15 character length. I'm not going to show you guys how I add all of my fields in, but I will show you the short integer that I will add. That field is going to be called in screens. The reason why is that stands for number of screens. We do not need this to be a long integer. It's just going to be a short one, and the numbers will have whole values, so it does not need to be a float or a double. We're not going to allow null values because every one of these kiosks has a screen. After you add the remainder of your fields, you are going to click Next. And then you want to make sure that the spatial reference is set to WGS 1984 Web Mercator. This will ensure that our data collection layer is in the same projected coordinate system as the base map that we will use in our data collection map. Once you have set that, you can click Finish. My new feature class has been created, and it has been added to the contents pane. If your feature class is not in the contents pane, you can go to your catalog pane. Under the database dropdown, your layer should be available there to add to your map. Next, we are going to add metadata to our layer. We do that by right-clicking on the layer name in the catalog pane and click Edit Metadata. We are going to populate these fields. My title is just going to be my layer name. You can have spaces and special characters in your title and in your tags and summary for metadata. Next, I'm going to add my tags, then my summary, and lastly, the credits field. I will just say that I'll list the name of who this was created by and what organization they are with. After you've populated these 4 metadata fields, your title, tags, summary, and credits, you can click Save in the Metadata tab, and you can close out of the metadata pane or map view. Next, we are going to share our newly created feature class to ArcGIS Online. To do this, we will right-click on the layer name in the contents pane, and we will go to share, and we are going to share this as a web layer. Now, you may notice that there is a share tab up in your navigation ribbon. However, when you share, sometimes when you share as a web layer from this option, it tries to publish an entire map view. Yeah, so it's sharing the entire map view as a web layer, and we don't want to do that. We want to just share this singular layer, and that is going to create a feature class in ArcGIS Online. So your metadata information has been populated into your name, summary, and tag field. You need to keep the layer type as a feature layer, and you do not need to give it a folder location. You can click Share with AEDI GIS. This will make it viewable by your group members. And before we publish, we need to click Analyze because there's usually some errors that pop up. Almost every time you share a layer to ArcGIS Online, you will get this error that unique numeric IDs are not assigned. It's a simple fix. You just need to click on these three dots to the right of the error, and then click Auto Assign IDs sequentially. That solves that error. And that was an error that would prevent you from sharing the layer to ArcGIS Online. Our other error is just one of concern, but it does not prevent us sharing the layer, so we are going to ignore it. Next, you can click Publish. If you get a warning that your date only field will have limited functionality in certain web clients, that is okay. Just click OK, and it will continue with the publishing. It usually takes a few minutes to publish a layer to ArcGIS Online, so just have some patience, and then we will move on to the next step. Once the sharing process completes and you have a banner notification that your web layer was published successfully, we will navigate to ArcGIS Online. Log in to arcgis.com using our GIS account. That is gislabualr.maps.arcgis.com. Once you are logged in, you will see in the top navigation option, you have a variety of tabs. We are mainly going to use the Content tab. Click on Content and it will bring up all of the content that you have in ArcGIS Online. And you might notice that the feature layer you just uploaded has two items in your content section. The first item that is important but we will not touch is the service definition. This is necessary for us to be able to use a feature layer in ArcGIS Online, but we do not need to make any changes to it, so don't worry about it. All the changes we make are going to be to our feature layer item. So make sure you click on your feature layer hosted item for this next step. Once you're in the content page for your data collection layer, we are going to scroll down and update our sharing permissions. So find Share on the right-hand side of the page and click the Edit button. Make sure that the sharing level is set for organization. Next, we are going to allow this layer to be edited so that we can add records to it when we do our field data collection. To do this, you need to scroll up, and then on the blue banner for your layer, you need to click on Settings. We're going to change two setting options. In the General section, we are going to check that we want to prevent this item from being accidentally deleted. And then we are going to save that change. Next, in our feature layer hosted section, we are going to check the box beside Enable Editing. Leave everything that turns on as is. We don't need to edit any of that. and then scroll down and click Save. After you set your sharing permissions and change your settings to allow for editing, we are going to create our coded domain value lists. To do this, in our blue banner, you need to go to Data, and then we are going to click on Fields in the right-hand corner. This lists all of the fields that are in your feature class, and if you click on your field that will have a coded domain, you will be able to create that coded domain list. So the first field that you should add this for is Technician. I will click on Technician. It looks a little different because I already messed around with the list, so I will show you what it originally looks like. My screen 1 damaged is going to have a coded domain field. So when you want to create a coded domain field for your field, you click into that field and then you go and you click on Create List. Your label is going to be the shortened value that you will see in a drop-down option when you're doing field data collection, and the code is going to be the full extent of the domain value. I just added the 4 values that I want in my coded domain list. Once you have done that, you can click Save. When you send people out in the field to collect data, you cannot expect them to always type every word the correct way. So it's helpful to create coded domain values. That way you don't have to deal with spelling errors, and that's one less thing you have to clean up once the field collection is done and you're working with the layer in ArcPro. Now, this is different from using coded domain values in an enterprise geodatabase environment. The importance there is twofold. One, it prevents spelling errors that can clutter up the data and take time to fix. And 2, it helps your data sets take up less storage space on your server. Once you have listed all of your coded domain values for that field, click Save. And once you've done that, your field page will show you your list of values. And if you made any errors, you can click Edit and change that. Now you should perform those same steps to add the coded domain value to any of your other fields that have that. I have added coded domain values for 5 of my feature layers fields. Now I am ready to create a web map that we will use for our data collection. To do this, go back to your content page. There's 2 ways to do this. So you can either click on your layer. So I'm going to right click on that and pull up the layer page. This is where we changed our sharing permissions, changed our editing settings, and added our coded domain values. So when you're on your layer page, you can click Open in Map Viewer, and that is going to open up a map that you can create. The other way to do this is to simply click on Map at the very top of ArcGIS Online. This will create a basic map with a base map, and the projected coordinate system for this map is WGS 1984 Web Mercator. In the map viewer, you are going to add your feature layer. Mine is called Information Kiosks. After this layer has been added, there's not much else we need to do. We just need to save our web map and make sure we have permissions for everyone in our group to view it. To save the web map, you click on the Save option over here, Save As, give it a name, You should name your data collection map with information about either your group number or the members in your group. That way we don't have 7 maps in our content that says data collection map. After you've saved your map, you can click on these stacked lines in the left-hand corner and go back to content. On your content page, you will now have your newly created web map. You can see in this middle column here that you can tell the difference between your feature layer that you created and your web map. When we look over to the right, we can see that our feature layer has an icon that looks like a building. That symbolizes our organization, whereas this web map has an icon with just one person. That means that right now, no other members in my data collection group could view this map to use it. We need to fix this by clicking on our data collection map, scrolling down to the right, clicking Edit beside Share, and changing the share level to Organization. Now I'm going to show you how to create a grid that you will use for field data collection. You will do this using the Create Fishnet tool, which is found in the geoprocessing pane. If you don't remember how to open the geoprocessing pane, you can do that by going to Tools, which is underneath your Analysis tab. Next, you can type Fishnet, and we will be using Create Fishnet. I would like for you guys to name your Fishnet field collection grid underscore group and your group number. Since you guys have a group that's numbered, I'll say my group is A. We do not need to fill out the Fishnet origin coordinate because we are going to draw a shape around the area where we want the Fishnet grid. This means we're going to use the Draw Extent tool under the Template Extent option. But before we can do that, we need to zoom to the UA Little Rock campus. We are going to draw the Fishnet grid template extent around the entirety of the Euler campus, including the apartment buildings that are south of Asher. So make sure you have template extent set, and then you can draw your rectangle. To move down, I just pressed and held the C button and it gave me that hand to pan, and now I can see the full extent. And you click on it and it will actually create a new layer that you'll see in your contents pane called Create Fishnet Template Extent. You don't need to do anything with this layer, but you can see now that our Fishnet origin coordinate X and Y values have been populated, as well as our top, left, right, and bottom X and Y extent. Next, we are going to fill in our numbers of rows and columns field. I would recommend doing about 12 rows and 4 columns. And then turn off the Create Label Points option. We don't need that. And make sure you change geometry type to polygon. Now you should be ready to run this geoprocessing tool, and it will pretty quickly create your field collection grid. Anytime a geoprocessing tool is run, you get either a green or a red bar down here that tells you if it was completed or incomplete, and you can hover over this or click on it to view additional details. That's always good to look at. If you have something fail, you'll be able to see a descriptor of why it failed in this box. Hopefully your Fishnet grid has been successfully completed, and now we are going to add 2 new fields to this layer that will help us with our data collection. So right-click on the layer and select Attribute Table, or press Ctrl-T, and you can either click add here, or on this right hand 3-line stack, you can click on fields view, and that will allow us to create some new fields for this layer. So let's create a field in which we will put the name of the people doing the data collection. So we can call that technician. It's going to be a text field. It does not need to be 255 characters. It could be 50. Next, let's create a field that we will use to indicate if we have completed data collection in that grid. So we will just call this field complete. It will also be a text field. And we can have it just be 1 character. I've added my 2 fields. I'm going to check their names and check that they are the text data type I want. And now I will go up to the Fields tab and click Save. And I can exit out of the Fields view. This next step is where you will populate your technician names. So if you're in a group of 2 people, just divide 48 in half and put one team member's name in half of those and the other team member's name in the other half. Now we are going to use the complete field to set up some categorical symbology. And unfortunately, we cannot do that without having values in here. So I'm going to select, first I need to turn my editing on. It's turned on. I'm going to select that part of the grid. Oh, I see. It also selected my Fishnet template extent. I do not need that. I'm going to remove it. So I have this grid down here in the bottom left that is not really a part of the Euler campus. So you will not be collecting data in this area. And what I'm going to do is fill out this attribute value as a capital Y. And then let's go ahead. This one's also not on campus. So I'm going to fill that one out as a value of N. And then I'm going to go to the Edit tab and save my edits. Now that we have 2 different values in our completed field, we can set up categorical symbology, which will show us which grid areas have been completed. To do this, you open up the symbology pane, and as you just saw, you might be clicked in on the part that will let you change the color and outline. If that's the case, you need to click this back arrow, and we're going to change our primary symbology type from single symbol to unique values. We want to use the complete field that we just created, and we want our null values to be just a hollow black outline. We want our no values to also be a hollow black outline. And we want our yes values to be shaded in. This will show you when you're out collecting data that that part of campus has been completed. You do not need to click save in any tabs in order to save the symbology changes you just made, but make sure you save them to your entire ArcPro project. Next, you will share this layer to ArcGIS Online so that you can add it to your data collection map. Remember, you right-click on the layer in the contents pane, you go to Share, and you select Share as Web Layer. You can keep the name, and for time's sake, I'm not going to fill out a summary right now. Our layer type is going to be a feature layer, and you do not need to fill out a location. On Share With, please select AEDI-GIS. This will share it with everyone in your group. And before we publish, we're going to click Analyze because I predict we might have an error. So we have two errors this time. One of them is the error that we saw earlier. We just need to click on these three dots beside the arrow and select Auto Assign IDs sequentially. That solved that error, but now we have a different error, which is that our field called shape length cannot be used as a display field. This means the field that will be at the top of a pop-up or the top of your attribute table when you're inputting data. So to solve this problem, we are going to go back to the contents pane and right-click on our layer and go to Properties. Then we'll go to the Display tab, and we'll change our display field to, we'll change it to Complete. Or actually, let's change it to Technician Name. Then click OK. That applies those changes. And if you analyze again, that error should not appear. Okay, we are good to publish. I will publish the layer now, and then it will be available to add into our web map on ArcGIS Online. After you create your data collection grid or your Fishnet, you need to do two things with it in ArcGIS Online. The first thing is that you need to go to the feature layer item and change the share settings, make sure they say organization, and again, change the editing settings. The second thing you need to do is add this layer to your data collection map. To do this, go back to your content section, open up your web map, and add that Fishnet or data collection grid to your web map. Make sure you save the web map before you leave the page. Next, you will download the Field Maps application from your phone's app store. You will be looking for ArcGIS Field Maps, and it has an icon that looks like this. Once you get that downloaded, you will log into your ArcGIS account using the GIS Lab UALR organization. And you should be able to find your group's data collection map listed just on that front page. If you have a problem finding it, please let me know and I will help you get that map onto your Field Maps application. Once you're in Field Maps and you are doing your data collection, you will have two layers that you can edit. You have your data collection layer that you created. That's the one that you will add your point features to and fill out the attribute information. And your group may have decided to divvy up some of these data collection grids to certain members. So when you're doing your data collection, once you have finished collecting data in that grid square, you can edit that grid and change the completed value to a Y, and that will color in that grid so that you know you've already collected data there. This is the end of the video tutorial for your Prepare for Field Data Collection assignment. I hope that the field data collection goes well this week.